and then we can. Okay, today's going to look a little different if you're joining us online. Hi, Frankie, Tracy, whoever else is watching. The other day we were talking about, go ahead. You'll probably say it better than me.
What we read about the ark being in heaven. Do you all
Look
remember?
at chapter 12,
You all remember that?
where John looked up and saw God in heaven and opened up, and the ark was there with him. So we got into this discussion about the ark. And then we started talking about one of Stan's trips to Israel, your first one. And so I asked him to come in today to talk to us about that a little bit more in depth, so we can have more of an understanding. We just don't know what we don't know. But anyway, so we're recording. So behind me, I'm going to move. We're going to turn the lights out, I'm assuming, so they can see it better.
We'll try it.
It feels really right here, I think. I'm going to move. Stan's going to talk to us about some pictures. Then we're going to switch the camera to the whiteboard, and he's going to teach us a little bit about how they do things, have done things in the past that are genius that we are too stupid to do today. Right?
We're on Pictionary. I'm gonna be on your team.
As long as it's straight lines and has to do with dirt. And if you can't hear, or whatever, speak up, because you can't see us, but we can see you.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Shut that ear.
Okay, good. This this picture that you see on the screen is of the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall in Israel. If you climb to the top of that wall, which is a good bit higher than what you can see, that you'd be up on top of the Temple Mount. And this is what the Jews consider to be the closest place they can get to, because for the Jew to be up on the Temple Mount, they would not want to be in the spot wherever the Holy of Holies was, wherever the temple was, right? So they, in their tradition, this is where they go to. They go there and pray. They, people from all over the world, people from all over the world come in to Israel. They go to this wall. I've been there numerous times. Chrissy and I've been there, 3 times, I think. And back last time we went, we took about 50 probably or so prayers from people at the church and poked them in the wall, in the cracks of the wall. And that wall is really, it almost vibrates. It's really different. I can't explain that.
It feels like holy ground.
It does. It is a very holy ground. You can see at the very bottom of that picture, over here, there's a little wall there. That's because this side's the men's side and the other side's the women's side. It all used, the first time I was there, or maybe not at that point. I don't remember what it was at that particular point, but it's split now. And
Oh, I'm sure it's always been.
but that's the closest they can get to getting on the temple. But if you would actually go the other way, to the right and follow that wall down away from this end, but the other way, there's a long set of steps that go up and people can get up on the Temple Mount. So that's where we go to get on
Is
the
that
temple.
the south gate? Is that
Huh?
the southern gate?
No, it's just an opening on the top. It
No, I
would
mean,
be on
going down
the,
that direction.
yeah, it would be to the south.
Okay.
So, but the reason I'm showing you this picture is this opening right here. That opening was a lot deeper in time. Most of Israel today is about 17 feet higher than what it was in Jesus' day. Not all of it, but some of it is.
Why?
And to get through that opening,
Dirt. Why is it deeper? Why?
because Jerusalem's been destroyed and conquered so many times, everything falls down. They just level it out and build on top of it again, or they burn it. And limestone, as you may know, it gets hot, it falls apart. And so, I mean, they used to have limestone kilns in the country where they'd heat up limestone and then they'd spread it on their fields to balance the pH in the soil.
Well,
but
and the walls built by different
this,
people too, like the Byzantines and King Herod.
right. This particular wall here that you see with the big stones was
Are they
part
plants?
of Herod's.
Excuse me.
Yeah, growing out of the wall.
Plants growing out of it.
They're
Yeah.
wild. They
Yeah,
grow
just
wild.
wild flowers run out of it. That wall is built on the foundation of the temple that Herod built. There's like several different temples that's been in Jerusalem. The first one was built by Solomon. And then it was destroyed in 586 BC. And then there was another one built by Zerubbabel and Ezra, Nehemiah, mainly Zerubbabel and Ezra. And then that was destroyed. And then they built another synagogue, and Herod wanted to please the Jews. And so he made the Temple Mount a lot bigger and made everything much larger to please them. But what he did was, and I would have to show you a picture of this, but the hill there in Jerusalem, Mount Moriah, where the temple is, which is the same place Abraham took Isaac to sacrifice him. This is the same area. What Herod did was he built all these tunnels, and he built all these tunnels underground because you don't have to fill the ground in with solid dirt. You just make arches and make real long tunnels out of arches. And then you put arches on top of arches and arches on top of arches. And you don't have to bring in as much dirt to fill it all. So that's what he did. If you go through this opening here, and I've been through that opening, and when you go through it, this is what you see inside. And there's it's a place where basically just the Jewish men and rabbis can go.
Okay, but you have to note too, this is, you can't just enter this.
No, you can't go in this. If we went today, we wouldn't get in it. In fact, I've only ever been in this room one time. And that was because the first time I went to Israel, I went with Bill Harder. You might know him. He was the pastor of the Presbyterian Church in Chambersburg. And that guy had all kinds of connections. He had been to Israel like many, many times in his life. He had some connections. They got us into this room. You go to the back of the room, there's a door there, and you go in that door, and then you start walking along this wall. Not the way it looks here with the arch, but the way it looks with the Wailing Wall. And then you go underground, and you can go underground, and you can go underground. And they actually have holes with plexiglass in the floor, and you can look down and see arches below where you're at.
How far underground could you go, do you think?
Oh, I'm just guessing, I'd maybe say 100 feet. I don't know. It's a ways down, but
Oh, I
what-
would even say more than that, because when we went below the wall,
Yeah.
that was what,
You
20 something?
yeah, it's hard to tell. You can go a long ways down, but to get into that and see that, you know, that's kind of rare. When you get down there, this is a walkway that goes all the way along the western wall, and this is the stones on the Temple Mount. This particular stone here, you can see it's got little holes in it. They're only about 6 or 8 inches deep. But that wall, it looks like if you look down the hallway at a wall that's covered with drywall, it's as straight as that. It looks like they cut it with a humongous blade or something. That stone is 45 feet long, it's 12 feet high, and they estimate it being 10 feet thick. And it is like one of the largest stones in the world, and it's setting on top of smaller stones. How they got that there, don't have a clue. They said that there's, I think, did they say it was 400 ton or something? I mean, there's not a piece of equipment in the world today that can pick that stone up. And they brought that stone in from a quarry. So pretty cool.
So
that-
this stone is, once you go through the priest chamber or tunnel,
It's
through that
down below
door.
ground.
and you go left to right, you're along the wall.
Right,
And this
and-
stone's in there.
Right, you just follow the same wall as the western wall or the Wailing Wall.
The Wailing.
It's underground deeper. You just keep following that wall. And once you follow it a ways, and you got to remember the Temple Mount is big. The Wailing Wall, that first picture I showed you, is almost at the south end of the Temple Mount. And that south end is called the Pinnacle. That's where Satan took Jesus and said, jump off, you won't die. So the Wailing Wall is pretty close to the south end, and to get to the north end of the Temple Mount is 1,600 feet. And it's a long ways. So what is that, a quarter of a mile or something? But you keep walking on down this wall, and what you see then is this. This is an opening, and that opening, it goes under the Temple Mount, and it is under there that the certain priests have said this is where they tunneled in at one point and found the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, I've been by that every time I've only been at this one once, but when you go by it, they say that every time you go by it, there's women sitting there praying because they feel like this is the closest place they can get to the Holy of Holies or to the temple. So the Palestinians caught them guys digging that and they sealed this tunnel up because the Palestinians have control of the Temple Mount. It's owned by Jerusalem, but Jerusalem allows the Palestinians to have control of it. Anything that happens on top of the Temple Mount, and they let them have that. That happened back in 1967 at the 6-Day War when Israel took over Jerusalem. They conquered Jerusalem that week. And one of the generals allowed the Palestinians or the Muslims to have control because on the Temple Mount is the Dome of the Rock. And the Dome of the Rock is the third most holy site for Muslims. And it is the oldest piece of it is the oldest structure that the Muslims have.
And that would be the structure that you see with the gold.
The gold
on top
dome.
of it,
It's all
everybody.
blue tile with the gold dome. And it was built in 791. And still exists
I
today.
think also interesting with this picture is the Eastern Gate, which Jesus is supposed to land in the Mount of Olives and then come across the Eastern Gate to get into the temple area. They not only blocked it off like this, it's all blocked off too, so you can't go through it, but they also have a Muslim grave in front of the Eastern Gate that Jesus would have to walk
Lots of
across the dead bones. Yeah, oh yeah, lots and lots of graves, hundreds of thousands maybe. That Jesus would have to walk across the dead bones to this gate, like he's not capable of, clearing the way. So I think the earthquake will do that probably pretty easily.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, since she said that, this opening here, if you went completely across the Temple Mount, that's where it would be, to the Golden Gate. This is right in
For the
the,
Eastern Gate,
this is right, the Eastern Gate.
there's
It's called the
has
Golden,
several names.
it's called the Golden Gate
Yeah.
too, yeah. If you went completely under the temple, well, if you go through this hole, according to these guys, it would go directly under what used to be the Holy of Holies. And here's what they say they did. And this is really a bad picture, and I'm sure you can't see it well, but it shows you what an underground tunnel would have been in this hidden chamber that was underneath of the Holy of Holies. Okay.
Okay, where's that little, okay, just my curiosity, where's the other temple in comparison to that spot?
It would be over in this corner.
The one that we
Yeah.
crossed from the Eastern Gate?
Well, yeah,
Wow.
across from the Eastern Gate.
It has to line up with the Eastern Gate.
It does line up with the Eastern Gate.
Okay.
This, but the thinking of people, there's two different trains of thought. The thinking of this particular picture is that the temple is exactly where that golden dome is now. But that is not straight across from the Eastern Gate. The Eastern Gate is down this way. And if you go straight under that Eastern Gate, you come to another small building. And I might be able to
It
pull up
looks
a
like a
picture
little
of that.
gazebo with a little tiny humble rock inside.
Yeah, and that is straight in from the Eastern Gate. So, but according to some people's thinking, the dome sits where the temple used to be. And inside that dome, that golden dome, I was in that my first year. You can't, in year 2000, they stopped letting anybody in it except Muslims. And I was there in October of 99. So I just barely made it. But inside that is this great big massive rock. And that's where they've always thought that rock was in the Holy of Holies, but can't be true because that rock is bigger. It's too big. I mean, it's like 15 or 18 feet wide and 30 some feet long. So
Did the Muslims put that rock in there?
no, it's been there. It's part of
They
the
built
mountain.
around it.
Yeah, they built that thing around it. This guy here his name is Rabbi Goren. And Rabbi Goren, he was the former chief rabbi of Israel. And this guy is significant. He is, and you can see, the Wailing Wall there. This guy is significant because he was the head rabbi in Israel we're losing people. And,
No, we're not. Oh, we are.
sorry,
Cindy is still
I'll be
here.
done soon.
Cindy's still here.
Okay, thanks for hanging in there. This guy, it was the chief rabbi of Israel. I mean, this guy is like the Pope of Israel, or was. He's the guy that said he dug through the tunnel and found the Ark of the Covenant. So this is not just some Joe Smo. This is a guy that's extremely important, or was. There's another guy, his name is Rabbi Ariel, and he was founder and head of the Temple Institute. And what he believes is that Solomon even, but specifically Josiah, knew that the temple was going to be, that Jerusalem was going to be destroyed. And so he instructed the temple police, or the people in charge of the temple, to hide the Ark of the Covenant and the menorah, the candlestick, into a special subterranean chamber prepared in advance by King Solomon. I mean, they believe that this was the most important. I mean, the Ark of the Covenant is the most important piece of furniture on the planet. Nothing is more important than that, because it was the place where God resided. The top of the Ark of the Covenant was called the mercy seat. It was completely made out of gold. One time a year, the high priest would go in and sprinkle that lamb's blood on the top of the Ark of the Covenant on the mercy seat, and God would, he didn't forgive sin, but he would cover it until the Christ could came, and then he could forgive it. But it is the most important piece of furniture in the world. So any thoughts on that?
I mean, when they hid that, it's like they would have recognized, like, that would have been a big secret to keep. Like, you know what I mean? If you really understood, it wouldn't just be anybody that was allowed to. Mhm. Can I turn the light on now?
Let me look here. I was looking
So-
for another.
So the
Yeah.
Palestinians hid it.
No.
I-
No, it would have,
What-
the Ark of the Covenant disappeared before the destruction of Israel, which is in 586 BC. That's when Jeremiah was the prophet that was alive at that time. And God had said enough was enough. Israel was not being faithful. And so when the Babylonians came, they actually took away the articles from the temple, but it doesn't say they took the menorah, and it doesn't say the Ark of the Covenant. That's left out of that. And so the Ark disappeared at that time in 586 BC, and it's not been found since that time.
Yeah. Well, just-
Unless, of course, you believe Indiana Jones, you know.
What did Indiana Jones believe?
Mhm.
What did Indiana Jones believe?
He found the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and he hid it in a warehouse somewhere in Washington. So,
Do the Muslims today know the Ark of the Covenant's there?
they've probably heard stories, but they don't really care about it because they don't believe in the Jewish literature, you know, in the Bible,
Nothing. The Muslims.
the Muslims. I can
Like,
show you,
But they're wrong. It's like rock.
you see if I can find one picture real quick, and then I'll go to the whiteboard.
Although I
So
did find
nobody
it-
knows where the Ark of the Covenant is.
Well, that guy claims he knows where it is, but you know, it is what it is. I've got pictures here of Israel. Chrissy and I were on the Temple Mount a couple of, well, one time, but well, yeah. I'm just trying to show them what a little bit of that looks like.
Is that
Is that guy still living?
I honestly don't know if he is or not.
the one that they have pictures of him on all the
No.
over there?
Oh, well, no, that's
Okay.
another guy. Okay, I'm gonna show you.
Wrong picture, that's not the Temple Mount. That's a cute picture.
Sorry.
Listen, before this, she would not smile for the camera at all, right? She was like, we were like, come on, smile for the camera, smile, and she wouldn't smile, and then said, Grandma has pops. And she turned around, changed her personality, put on a big smile, and gave a thumbs up. Rotten. Not that one.
I don't understand why it's not.
Click down at your picture.
Huh?
Your picture down there on the right.
Oh, no, it's up on his screen.
Oh,
What's,
Yeah. Here, let me do this.
that's weird.
I just gotta. Let me go into my display here and share the
So you
screen.
only have one.
It says extend them. We showed only two.
well, there it's showing your screen.
Yeah. There we go. I have to jump around here for a minute on this, but that's what the Temple Mount looks like
Do you want me to
today.
explain what all of these are?
If you look, can you see my arrow? Going around?
Yeah.
That's the eastern gate there, but that is not straight across from that. If you went straight across the Temple Mount, you're gonna come out like right here somewhere. But these are all those grades, Chrissy, that's something about, Muslim graves. But the Temple Mount is absolutely enormous. I mean, enormous.
Now, point out on this side, Mount of Olives and those graves are Jewish.
Well, yeah, if you go off to these are all olive trees. These are all Jewish graves. The entire mountain is. And if you go off to the right, you would see the Mount of Olives. Let me see where I'm at. Eastern Gate, South Wall.
Explain those rocks. Why there's no flowers.
Huh?
Why there's no, those rocks. Explain what they're
That's-
doing.
These are their graves. And when people come to visit a grave, instead of putting flowers on it, they put a rock on it.
Everybody's equal.
Yeah.
Idea.
Yeah.
I was trying to get back to my original picture thing. Running this thing like this doesn't work.
What original picture? Oh, you're
Let me
from earlier?
no, I gotta go back up. Hang on a minute. We'll get there.
We're a captive audience.
Huh? There it is. Here, let's try this. There we go. Let me go up here to
That's
That's-
Ruben, our
that's-
guide. If we go again, he'll be our guide.
yeah. I got. Where's the Temple Mount here somewhere? There we go. Here's the steps going up to the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount's quite large. You get to the bottom of these steps, you're not even close to being off the Temple Mount. It's 37 acres in size. There's that little dome. It's called the Dome of the Book. Dome of the Rock, and also Dome of the Spirit. And inside of that little dome there is a special rock on the ground, and that's where people believe that that might have been right where the temple stood.
And that's where Jeff and Kylie almost got arrested.
Yeah.
The first time we were there.
And if you would turn right, like where this picture is taken from, and go straight across the temple, you'd run right into the Eastern and Golden Gate.
Did we take pictures of the Eastern I thought we did.
We did. It's just a matter of. finding
Built
it.
that.
Mhm.
It's always been there.
The small dome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always been there. But the size of it, I mean, it's a big. Well, I don't know why it did that. Look at this. I think there's more on down
Were you
here.
part of the AV team in school?
Who, me? Why would you say that? I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm just making it up as I go.
What are those things?
Oh, here,
That's a ceiling.
this right here is the inside of, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And there's a small, it's not really small, but
This is the
it's,
Roman Catholic Church.
yeah, well, it's run by 4 different groups.
Well, that's true.
But that church there, inside of it is where they say is the cave where Jesus was born, according to the Catholics.
And then that round thing is the ceiling above that.
Yeah, very big.
There's,
Mhm. That was when. Okay, here we go. Here's more of the Temple Mount. This is all the Temple Mount. That's that mosque on the one end, that big mosque up on top. And that's turning around, looking at the dome. There's the mosque.
there's Stan.
Handsome guy there. And some girl praying.
That was a Muslim. I think that was an interesting picture. Go back to- Yeah, you are. You're.
Liners.
Well, I don't know what to be here. This
You got
this
it.
girl, yeah, but she's, it may look like a pretty picture, but she's praying to a false god.
But I think it's an interesting, like, showing their picture too.
Yeah. It's a hand washing
Hand washing
station.
station.
There's the eastern
There's the
gate.
Eastern Gate.
They're massive. I mean, they are quite large.
Now that's from inside, that's from
Inside.
inside the Temple Mount. So if you look
Right.
out, you would see Mount of Olives.
The Mount of Olives is over here.
But this
Yeah.
time, when we went there before, you couldn't even get down in there without the Muslim guards pulling out the guns on you.
Yeah, we
And
walked,
this time we went right down into it, got pictures, no one said a thing to us.
yeah. These are olive trees on the Temple Mount, on the lower part of the Temple Mount. And that's the
And they're cute
sidewalk.
Kids.
Now, this is looking from the Temple Mount across. There are all those graves. See them? That's where I showed you the picture from the Temple Mount across and the big picture with the dome. We were up on top of that. That's the Mount of Olives. This pathway coming down here, this road, that's the triumphal entry. That's the road Jesus came down. And then to the left here is the Mount of Olives. And if you go over this hill and come down the other side, you're at Bethany.
Is that Agnes's house?
Yeah, where Lazarus lived.
Okay, but is that what you were just pointing to?
That's what I was saying. You go over the hill and you come into Bethany, where home of Mary and Martha.
At the very top,
At the very top is.
Yeah.
The top of the hill.
in that house?
It is, or a church or whatever.
Oh, okay,
Muslim.
nothing's.
But actually, if you go to the left a little bit, there's a tower, and that tower is called the Tower of Ascension, and that's where they believe Jesus went back to heaven from. Yeah. This is really a big building, and there's that.
There's a picture of the
There's
sun.
the stone. It's different than all the other stones. So. And these are probably Christie's pictures, I'm
Yeah.
guessing. But I mean, just the sheer size of the Temple Mount is, 37 acres is just huge.
Too fast for the online viewers. Yeah, I think it's just there. So
What's the matter with it?
Well, the color is not showing up.
It just looks white.
Oh,
Right there.
you can't see very well up there then, I'm sorry. I thought you were seeing what we were seeing.
I can't see the color.
Yeah. I'm sorry that's not showing up. It's just
There's
got,
one that kind of shows.
it's really a bright blue, actually. But you look at that and you can see the size of the Temple Mount. And we're not even close to the end of it from where this picture was
Well, when you
taken.
think 14 football fields,
They're 37 acres, yeah,
37 acres just blows.
yeah. Anyway. I think we've been through all them.
We see it better there.
Yeah,
right?
how about that? Can you see that? That's the Damascus Gate
Which is the Muslim gate, but
over here, yeah. We went through that a few times. There's just so much stuff.
show
to
them
see there.
the, show them the bar, show them the above, one up.
The outdoor market.
Yeah, that, the market, it's actually in the tunnel.
Oh,
Yeah,
here.
that one.
Yeah, we went
Like-
through. You can't see it on that picture, but
Oh, dang it.
that's,
It's like just like rows and rows and rows of different candy, and same with the spices, show them the spices there, maybe that,
yeah, they're always selling stuff. What's the matter?
nothing.
You couldn't see it on there, honey.
The spices.
The
Go back up.
spices that was done like an Egyptian temple that you just went past, right beside the candy. Right there. No, over,
Then,
over, one picture to the left. I don't know if they can see it. Can you see how that,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
built like at a temple? I can't see it.
sorry, you guys.
I'm sorry. Right.
Anyway, that's part of the Damascus Gate there on the steps going down,
Jesus is in there in one of our pictures here.
huh?
What is that? It's a red car.
That's just what they haul stuff on.
Yep, there's,
They got it, they got like a motorcycle front,
they have markets around all the gates where people come, like we set up kiosks.
yeah.
And then little kids will come over and be like, you want what dog? Want what dog?
Yeah,
Always think.
Mhm.
you can't really see it in any of these pictures, but there's the new gate going through the wall. That gate was built in like 1800.
How many gates is there? Like 12? I forget.
Yeah,
9, 12.
it's 12 gates.
I do.
There's a toilet.
Yeah,
There's the military.
Up there, we talk about.
well, here takes you back to the. That takes you back to the Temple Mount.
That's from the Mount of Olives.
Yeah, that's taken from the Mount of Olives. And if you look right here, is that little dome where that rock was. we
Can
were
they
telling
see
you
your,
about.
can they see your?
Can you see the cursor?
Here. I don't know
No,
that
they can't. You can't really see it on the screen up there.
Yeah.
honey.
And
You
what
thought you
did
were-
that signify? That little.
Huh?
The rock, the little one?
Uh-huh.
That's actually lined up with the Eastern Gate.
That's probably where the.
That's
Holy of
probably
Holies-
where the rebuilding of the
Holy of
temple
Holies
will be.
was. Mhm.
What do they say was there now?
Nothing.
A rock.
Rock.
It's just a rock, yeah.
I thought it had something to do with mayor. No.
Oh.
I
There
found
was
it,
something there was something.
I
that
picked
people
her up.
got Married.
I picked her up at the Western Wall.
Just read an article about that this morning in Genesis. Somebody, Tamara and
Oh,
Their
and
father-in-law.
Tammuz. Tabernacle.
Where?
In the Euphrates River.
I was trying to find that one that you can see.
They have a lot of like spaces you can eat outside,
what
I don't-
season is that for them?
winter.
Hmm.
That's when their flowers grow because they're desert. So their winter is our.
You can't see it in this picture here probably, but if you can see where my, no, you can't really see it on there. Yeah, you can barely see it there, behind these people on this wall right here, there's a door down in, if you went down inside,
You step down.
if you went clear in this hole here, over this little wall and railing and went down, there's a top of a doorway down there. The top of that doorway goes clear underground. That was the original area.
Temple wall.
So those walls are just massive in size.
Built for the-
Right, they have all the things prepared to rebuild the temple,
Based off of this. house.
because it's lined up with Eastern Gate. So before, didn't they have like the old measurements and they thought that the Eastern Gate lined up with the Golden Dome?
Right.
Then they did some rediscovering and realized that Temple Mount was actually larger
Much larger, yeah.
and the Eastern Gate actually lines up with that little humble
Hmm.
gazebo, which is more like our Jesus,
Yeah,
more like our little gate.
But the Muslims dome has to be torn down for the temple to be rebuilt.
yeah.
I
Here's-
don't know, I mean, does
No.
it, I don't think
No,
that
it
would,
doesn't. This is the doorway to get in the church of the of Bethlehem, Church of the Nativity.
is that when were they talking about going through the eye of the needle?
Yeah,
Hold on a second. They're just gonna rebuild on top of what's there. When they rebuild the temple.
it'll be right, it'll just build it right on top of the ground there. Mhm.
Well, the red, that great earthquakes, who knows what
Mhm.
that's gonna look like?
Yeah, this is inside the Church of the Nativity.
Hold on a second, the earthquake's gonna happen before they build the temple?
There's gonna be lots of earthquakes. Remember in the beginning of Revelation, it talks, there's like 3 or 4 earthquakes before Jesus.
Yeah, but I thought they had to rebuild the temple before that.
Yes, you're right, they are
They
rebuilding.
rebuild the
first
temple,
4 years.
yeah.
But they're not building this temple where the Muslims dome is now.
No.
Well,
Wouldn't they have to tear that down?
who knows?
Well, it's far, the little temple's far enough away from it. Oh, you mean to make that whole area?
Yeah.
Mhm. Good
I don't
question.
think there's anything else here left to talk about any of that.
You thought you were gonna do this in 10 minutes last
we
week?
got-
Karen?
Huh?
You thought you were gonna do this in 10 minutes last week?
Mhm.
Right on schedule.
Mm,
Okay, let's turn around towards the whiteboard now.
okay. Move your stuff now.
And all of that is in Jerusalem, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna this and move it closer to you. Turn your light on. Yeah, I'm gonna move it.
they, okay.
We don't need to see them. Sorry, guys. I mean, it's not that I don't wanna see you, but
Pull that flash drive out too.
it'll be easier, I think, for you to see what he's doing. Oh, yeah.
We can move that.
Can you see that? Do I need to set it up?
Can you see that okay?
That's much better.
Do I need to make it up higher?
Want a chair?
It's those stupid lights.
That's,
Yeah, make-
that's good. Oh,
Yeah,
This light here.
you can't.
Yeah.
So try turning them both out and see what happens.
Well, you're gonna be in the dark,
Just see how dark it is.
real dark.
Okay, you are very dark.
Flashlight,
That's-
where's your flashlight?
Okay, can you see that okay?
yes.
So. You go pick up.
No, she's getting a drink. We could,
I think they can see it okay.
okay.
Okay, what this picture is, it's a picture that I drew. That's why it looks so bad. And this area right here is the ground level. In the, on the Temple Mount, okay? That's ground level on the Temple Mount. And there, I've actually seen this before, and I had a video of it. There's a guy, I've seen an animated video of it, and I've seen a real live rock that they did this with, not a giant one, but this is how they hid things, like in Egypt, when they hid tombs and stuff. This is one of the ways they did it. They would have a stone up here, like massive. This stone could be 30 foot wide. And it's just a massive stone, maybe 15, 20 feet deep. And in here, they would build a wall here like this. And then a wall here, And this here all is underground. All of this. This is all stone. All of this is stone. So this is an empty hollow spot. It's just empty underground. And they've got, in here, this wall here is just a single wall. And this is all sand, all of it sand. So what they do is, if they want to hide something, this is an empty room here. If they want to hide something, they can bring the Ark of the Covenant, with the cherubim on it, they can bring that ark and bring it down into here. And then what they do is they have, when they built this, they have in here, this is a clay, like a clay pipe. And the clay pipe here is got an end on it. And the sand is holding the stone up, which isn't hard to do because sand's dense. This wall here is nothing compared to that stone. So they take a real long stick and they poke it through this hole and they break that clay at the bottom, and they do the same thing here. And over about an hour or so, all of the sand falls down like an hourglass into that empty hole, and that stone comes straight down. And when that stone comes straight down, it's level with that, and nobody has a clue that there's anything underground. And how do you ever
Because the
dig
stone would gently come down with the
It-
sand.
like an hourglass, it would come down, and this wall right here would just get crushed as it comes down. So that's how they hid stuff, and it's ingenious, and they did this different places. And if you watch some of the Indiana Jones movies, that's how they did it. You'll see them big old stones coming down, or that one movie, what's it called? The Mummy. Actually, they've got stones coming down, and this is how they did it. They would, I mean, it's very simple and basic. All you got to do is break this clay pipe, these clay pots here at the bottom, and the stone then will start coming through this hole, and this thing will
Sand-
start filling
Sand will
up.
start coming.
Huh?
Sand will start.
Sand will start coming through the hole, and that hole, the weight of that stone just comes down over an hour, 2 hours, or whatever it takes, and it gives them. They put whatever they want down there, climb out, that comes down, and then the next thing you know, this stone is right here. And all of that's crushed, and this is bigger than what the sand will hold, but it doesn't matter. They've engineered it, so, and sometimes they can even put like a massive ledge right here. So when that stone comes down, it rests on that ledge so that it's actually perfectly even with the top, and nobody will ever know anything's underground. And
So
you-
that huge stone that you showed us in that tunnel would be significant because it could be actually hiding something.
Could be, hard to tell. But
So that
that's
stone, before the stone descends, what's it resting on? Is that a sand at the ground level under the stone?
This is
Is
a
that
wall.
sand?
Here. This is a wall
Oh.
here, and all this is sand holding it up.
Okay, it's okay. And then how did they dig down to hide whatever they wanted to hide in that little room?
This is open. This
Okay,
is all. And they put stairways in here, probably
okay,
out of wood, and have a door here. But they don't,
gotcha.
none of this is important to hide until invaders come. And when invaders come, all they do is break those clay, the bottom of those clay pots, and the sand just starts funneling down. And as it does, all this just gets crushed.
Uh-huh,
And then that stone is all the way down, even with the ground, and it's
okay.
hit
Well, the
forever.
perfect place to have the ark then would be under the Temple Mount because no one's ever going to excavate
No,
the Temple Mount.
and this right here, the distance between here and here might be 20 feet of solid rock. I mean, you can't even use a,
That's what I was gonna say. If they're hiding stuff, it has to be something that they don't ever plan to take out because they know that that big stone they're putting it in.
Yeah.
It's not.
but what the Jewish people, what this rabbi said is there's tunnels that had gotten hidden that come in, or tunnels that come into this, but they've been sealed off too. But they disguise all of it, so you can't follow it. I mean, they're masters of doing that. And so Cause you can't ever get in this way again.
No.
Ever, without blasting or cutting a hole, through it. So, but
So,
the other point is, if you're looking for something on the Temple Mount, you're looking from up here. You're not looking from over here where the tunnel goes, just like the tunnel that Hezekiah built. He hid that tunnel because the spring was outside the city wall and it brought water into the city of Jerusalem. Well, that tunnel was hidden for, like 1,500, 1,800 years. Nobody knew where it was at. And then a guy by the name of Warren found it. And the end of that tunnel is it's called Warren Shaft now, but it's where King David crawled through a hole. That hole is still there in the wall. It's only about that big. And he crawled through that hole and went up, him and his men, and came into the well, or the well where people dipped water out of. And then they got inside the city at night and conquered the city of Salem. And he made that capital of Jerusalem. But
That's something we do more over there too, is we walk through Hezekiah's.
We walk
There's
through-
two ways. There's a dry one
Yeah.
and a wet one.
Yeah, we've walked through it a couple times, but the point I'm making is they hid that tunnel and it was hidden for like 1,800 years. It's a big tunnel inside there. It's like 20 feet high in some places, but it's narrow. It's only about so
Yeah, you
wide.
had the picture. That's why you would pass pictures of it.
Oh, but they're just masters of hiding stuff and doing this kind of thing. And the other thing too, I'd point out is if the temple has to be rebuilt before Christ comes, right? The Jews would have no better reason in the world to build the temple than if they found the ark. Because that ark needs to be in the temple. So my thinking is someday they're going to find the ark, and when they find it, they're going to build the temple. So just a thought. Why else would they build a temple?
What makes sense is at the temple, and the other thing that makes sense is the energy that's at the prayer wall. And that, because the other thing in Israel, anytime they go to dig, that's when they find things. And then everything stops because it's an excavation site. But like,
Well,
it would make sense that would be hidden in a place where they're not going to excavate.
and they don't, they'll never excavate the temple. But like when we were in Israel, in 2017, we went through the Hezekiah's tunnel and come out at the pool of Siloam. And when you walked out, it was just real narrow. There was a few steps there, like it's long, like maybe 30 yards long, and there's steps down to the pool. But the property next door was just a field that was all built up. Nobody had built in it or nothing. And when we came this time, they had that entire field. They're digging it out. They're excavating it, and they're going to dig down till they find the bottom of the pool of Siloam and restore all that, in an archaeological sense. And every shovel of dirt goes through a strainer looking for artifacts and stuff because they take it extremely seriously. And that area is big. It's it's probably, I don't know, it's probably 6 or 8 times bigger than our gym is the pool of Siloam there. And
That's how big the pool itself
and-
is? Or the
yeah,
area
yeah,
around?
and
The area.
and the first time we were there, it
It's
was,
just a little spot. Well, and it's even like in Rome, like they've quit excavating in Rome because they always ran into more catacombs down
Yeah.
underground. Like they have these graves underground that are like long halls with these rooms.
thousands and thousands.
With these rooms that just have shelves
And
that
multiple
were graves.
levels down. Yeah, you
So
never,
like Hitler's not a genius. I mean, Hitler had underground rooms. The Hamas is not geniuses. They have underground rooms.
yeah, and you may not know it, Israel is flooding the
Hamas.
Hamas tunnels right now. They got 5 pumps and they're pumping millions of cubic gallons of water into those tunnels, flooding it. And it'll really mess up the land because it's Mediterranean water, so it's seawater.
Mm.
It's got salt in it,
Mhm.
and it's and they're not going to be able to plant because the ground will be saturated with salt then.
Who? Israel or
Whoever
who?
owns that land.
Mhm.
Yeah, all them tunnels underneath the ground will soak up that salt water. So, but that's what they're doing because there's so many tunnels.
It's on him.
Yeah.
Well, I
What?
guess I'm wondering what would keep, so just like there's a war going on over there right now, what would keep maybe Iran from bombing where the mount is, and that's how they discover the Ark is there, because somebody drops a bomb on it. I mean,
Well,
they-
being that my thought is that being that the Muslims consider that a holy place would probably prevent them from bombing. If it was
Yeah.
just
And the
the Jewish holy place, they probably would, but it's not. It's also the Muslim holy place.
Right, this, actually, the Dome of the Rock is the third holy site for the Muslims outside of Mecca and Medina. It's the third most holy site to the Muslim, but it's the oldest building the Muslims have. And it's the holiest place for the Jews. So no matter how much tension there is, the Temple Mount's gonna be there. And it's.
Unless that earthquake comes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when the earthquake comes, which uncovers the ark, and then they
Yeah.
can build the temple.
yeah, that's
They
probably,
have no reason for building the ark then. or
I'm
building the
thinking
temple.
whatever. And those big stones that you're talking about are like that 50-ton one that you have drawn. Well, so nobody knows how they bring those stones in, or do they somehow cut this, cut away what's surrounding the stone, fill the void underneath the ground, find the bottom of the stone and fill it with sand? I mean, is it existing, or they actually bring those stones in?
I don't know. It's not out of reason to think that that stone there came from here.
Yeah, that's what I was. uh-huh.
They could lift stuff like we can't
Well, they were
imagine.
geniuses too in
maneuvering.
stonework, because like all the columns and things like that, when you see how huge these columns are and how perfect they are, and even the carvings into some of their like exquisite displays, like the bowls and things, it's like you don't even know how they did it.
Yeah, if you go to Google and put in images and type in obelisk, like large Egyptian obelisk, they are the massive stones that stood up, kind of like the Washington Monument.
Masons. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's made out of a lot of stones, but they used to make them out of one stone, cut it out of the ground, cut it out from underneath the stone, moved it, and sometimes moved it miles. In fact, they've discovered recently, there was a lady here literally about 15 years ago, and she was an archaeologist, and she developed a technique for discovering stones. And what she did was she took I think it was a helicopter, it might have been a little plane,
Or drone.
but she developed a device that shot radiation down, and which is not uncommon. That's how they pack for buildings. When they're going to build a new building, it has to be packed down tight enough to be able to hold up the weight of the building. And they got a device they put on the ground. It shoots radiation down, and the device measures how fast the radiation bounces back, and they can tell how packed the ground is. She
Mm,
used that same kind of technology, put it in an airplane, shot it down to the ground, and the computer measured how fast the radiation came back. And when she did that, you can go along the ground and you got it doesn't matter if there's trees, jungle, whatever, but it sends like millions of little shots of radiation down. It's not dangerous radiation, but it shoots it down in the ground, it bounces back. And if you come across the stone wall, then the diagram the computer reveals is a
Shape.
stone wall.
The shape.
And it may be 2 or 3, 4 feet underground.
Don't they use it for looking for bodies too?
And they have discovered entire civilizations like in Honduras. I just read this week where they discovered another massive city. But it's because they can fly over the jungle and find that. Well, they use that same technology in Egypt, and they had long suspected, trying to figure out where the stones came from for the pyramids. And they found out that what they did was they extended the Nile River clear up next to the pyramids, and there's docks there. So they figured out now that those stones they built the pyramids with, they brought them in on boats. And these are
it's amazing.
massive stones. And the big pyramid of Giza, it's got 1 million of those stones on it.
And how would they have a boat big enough, strong enough to bring them in? That just amazes me.
Out a way for flotation, and it was just made out of barges, and they would haul one stone at a time on a barge. And one stone, may weigh 2 or 3 ton.
Huh.
But that's what, and they did 1,000,000 of them. You just can't imagine.
Good thing they had all them slaves.
Yep.
That's what I was gonna say.
And those stones were all cut off-site, just like when Solomon built the temple. All of the stones were cut off-site.
Weren't they the Phoenicians though? Didn't he hire the Phoenicians or somebody to do that? And that was a big,
He could have, yeah,
I think we studied that.
but their technology, and then they had to lift all those stones
Yeah.
to get them up. And usually the way they would lift stuff is, they would have thousands and thousands of slaves bringing in sand, and they would pack it down, and they would pull the stones up, sand piles, like put it on top of a giant column, and then removed all the sand. And that's an easy way to do it.
Not so easy, right?
Sounds like a lot of work to me.
Well, they had no way to lift it up. I mean, they didn't have a crane, so
Easy way for them at that time.
that's, well, if you got thousands of slaves,
Hundreds of.
yeah. You can do a lot.
Right,
Well,
what
that's
was
all
built
I got.
today was built in 20.
You've exhausted anything I know.
Think they need to, okay, I'm gonna say something I probably shouldn't. They should research the genealogy of all those slaves and give the people in the current generations reparations.
For the work they didn't do.
Okay, I'm sure I'm related to some.
Me too, me too.
I know, right?
See you
We
guys.
All
go
right.
on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that concludes our study for today, and we'll pick up tomorrow in chapter 13, I think we were. Right?
Thank you.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.